Well, good morning. November 18, about 8:45, 9 a.m. We'll call it 9 o'clock on the dot. Hey, I'm filming this because I was gonna put out another episode this today, in fact, because I thought it was gonna be raining all day, and it is just drop dead gorgeous right now. Just beautiful out. We do expect rain again. It's supposed to rain all day, so most of the guys are telling me that after lunch it's gonna rain today. So today, what's our update right now? Well, gee whiz, have had success despite a lot of communication problems with the marina in getting an estimate for the fiberglass work to close over the holes professionally. I can create the holes, and I did that. I created 9 of them. 8 of them need to be patched, and I am willing to do the work myself, but these guys will do the work for $600, and they'll do a better job than I can do. They'll do it faster than I can do, and I'll have more confidence in the work if they do it. So I'm gonna hire that work out. Of course, that depends upon whether they actually show up. Leave one hole unplugged, because one hole is where the depth sounder transducer needs to go when it gets here, if it gets here. So that's still the big wild card. I've pretty much given up on getting new seacock valves in. I mean, the dude doesn't call back. He doesn't respond to messages. I don't have any confidence at all that I'm gonna get new seacocks. Therefore, today's focus before it starts raining is to refurb the 4 seacocks that I need. Here we go. So you can see the valves spin off, okay? What I don't have video of is me taking out the restraining bolts. There are 2 of those on this valve. I pop those out, and then you just spin the valve off, and it just required a tug by hand. Okay, so pretty good thread engagement. Pretty good. I jokingly refer to this area as the last shithole on the boat. All this stuff has been removed now. It's all gone. And you can see the valve was bedded on a piece of marine plywood, which had probably been epoxied at the time. But you can see the epoxy is long past its service life. In the case of this valve, I thought maybe I could retain the center part, but you can see it is just not there anymore. So I scraped that off 100%, and we're going to fiberglass off that hole. My preferred tool of choice for whacking things is my dad's hammer, of course, but I don't hit directly on top of that fitting itself because it's made of a soft metal. Okay, new problem, because I'm afraid I'm gonna hit my hand. Okay, we're gonna pause and go find a block of wood. Funny that the first 5 fittings I took out, all of which were in the stern of the boat, they all came out very easily. But the fittings up forward here, as you can see, they gave me trouble, and I ended up destroying that whole fitting by mushrooming it over so much with the hammering. I could not get it out any other way. Beating on it like this did not work. Okay. Boy, that came out a little too easily. The transducer itself is right here. The previous owner painted over the bottom of it. Normally that's a bad thing to do with depth sounders. And I couldn't get the retaining pin off. So I just unscrewed it and all kind of came together. So, study that a little bit later. Now we're trying to beat this one out. Yeah. Oh my god, all this fucking sealant. God, this is not going to want to come out either. Oh my god. These things don't want to come out. CSY, or whoever put this in, I'm sure CSY did the valve. Boy, they made that puppy to stay. So, oh my god. Well, beat the hell out of this one too, I guess. This is what we got on the outside. Let's take a look at that's the skin fitting for the valve. And it's just a cylinder that goes through a pretty snug hole packed with adhesive. This is the skin fitting for the old depth sounder. And it's just this adhesive stuff. That's what's making it hard. This one is ready to come out. I can probably pull that by hand. The other transducer, this is what you got. So there's a wooden block. The wooden block has the exact same shape as the one on the inside, but they're not the same piece of wood. You can see that now. The only hole in the hull is going to be about a 1 inch hole. You can see by the threaded portion there. That's the hole that I'm going to create. And this transducer itself, you know, darned if I know what it was. It's got to have been a depth sounder of some sort. My supposition is that this was the original depth sounder and it had been replaced by that one. This looks like a skin fitting, but it had a depth sounder transducer in it. And I think that's what we have. I think we have the first one. It was judged to be too damn hard to get out, and they're right. And then they put in this one, and then somebody went and cut all the wires off. And that's the bottom of the valve. So yeah, I know I should have my gloves on. Yeah, but I like taking shit out. Come on, come on. The adhesive's just what? Okay. None of this is good or bad. It's just good, honest work right now. But I really want to make some progress because I want to get this off today. The valves, as you can see, have through bolts as well. So the valve is installed the exact same way and above the waterline is. You put this thing through, which is threaded, and you screw the valve on top of it and pinch it up against the hull. And then they were drilled holes and passed these bolts through. They go all the way through, and they go through the valve body, and they prevent the valve itself from rotating. Something I'd never seen before. So this would be under the heading of overkill in construction methods. That valve ain't never coming out. This is my workbench view of one of the seacock valves I took off. And so just a quick conversation about that here, I think, and this is to help anyone who is not familiar with this sort of thing. Suppose that the blue thing is the hull of the boat, okay? It's just a paintbrush. A hull fitting that is above the waterline typically looks like this. They come in different shapes. Sometimes they only have the mushroom cap on that goes on the outside and a threaded fitting as well. But we're not going to talk about that right now. This one is what I would call a typical. So you would screw this up against from the outside. This is inserted, and I call that the hull fitting. And in the U.S. we sometimes call it a skin fitting. And then on the inside of the boat you put on your sealant to seal the hull from leakage. And you screw this down, you know, wrench tight up against the hull, and that's that. And then you put a hose on with your double hose clamps. So that would be your typical above the waterline application. Below the waterline, you typically use a valve, okay? So this valve is installed, again, with a similar type skin fitting, and that screws into the valve body, see? So you would insert the skin fitting from the outside and your friend would hold it. You see these little nipples on the inside of the hole, and so that would, your friend can hold it in place while you thread the valve on top. Okay, and the same thing, you cinch it down with sealant until you pinch on the hull, and then the valve is secure. This valve could then be connected to, you know, with a threaded connection to some other hose or other fitting of some sort, you know. Now, in my particular case, the valves that we have on the boat that are installed are this style, okay? But they're conical valves with a hole down the middle. So the valve rotates and it starts and stops flow, okay? And there's really not much to it. So you have a handle that goes on there, and there's a cotter pin that holds the handle in place. On the back side of the valve, you put, you know, you got your washers and you got your dealies. You would thread on the nut, and it would be threaded all the way down, and it would pull this cone this way, and it stops any leaks from this end, and this washer sits up against that surface and stops any leaks on this end. So what, and I have to give a shout out to Paul Kube, who is one of our YouTube followers, and he did a great job of educating me on this, because I'm not familiar with this type of valve per se. I've seen lots of valves on lots of hull fittings and lots of Navy applications and lots of power plant applications, but actually monkeying with it and taking it apart. And anyway, so that's a seacock. So we want to distinguish between above the waterline hull fittings, which would look like this, and a seacock, which has the valve. The valve is installed in an integral fashion. You know, the valve is part of the hull connection. So that's what we have on this boat. Above the waterline would look like this. Below the waterline would have the valve as part of the assembly. But I do want to point out that in some cases, possibly because they can't find anything else, some boaters do this. They'll take one of these fittings, okay, and they will screw it down and they will attach it to the hull. And on the inside of the boat, they'll thread on a valve. And that is something I think is generally not approved, but you will see that on occasion. People do that, so I'm not even going to say whether it's right or wrong. I think you should not do it. I think what you should do, if it's below the waterline, is properly get a seacock, whether it's this old bronze style or get the new kind like I put on my boat in Scotland. So anyway, that's that. And once I got the hull fittings out, I removed the marine head and the holding tank. Get off my ship. Always get the shitter off your boat. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not too heavy. Okay. Holding tank coming out. Get the hell off my ship. Take a ship. Oh my God, that's a tough guy. But it probably hasn't been out for years. Who knows? God, this is going to take freaking forever. But I chose the valve that is least accessible to start out with. If I can get that, the other two should be a piece of cake. It's always easier to grip. My right thumb is the one that's painful. Arthritis, you see. This is PB Blaster. I think I'm going to pop off these plugs. Squirt some in there too. Because down here, it's going to drip off. And that's just the way it is with this old stuff. You know the valve probably hasn't been touched for 40 freaking years. And that came off pretty easily. That's loose. I want you to not listen to the copyrighted music. This song is by a group called Amen Corner. They're UK gold, so I heard the song a lot when I was in the UK up in Scotland on my other boat. And on that boat, I had my radio and I would listen to, the programmed audio. And there's a station called UK Gold, which I listen to all the time. And this song was an everyday thing on their playlist. Okay, so you can see the valve body. So what I'm not going to do today, I'm not going to try to get these nuts off. I do not want to F with the flange here. I might excise back some of the existing wood. Oh, that came out one pop. Okay, so there's the valve. Okay, it's hung up on that little dilly. I don't know the proper names of all the valve parts, to be honest. The important thing is the plug came out. So I'll do a quick cleanup with sandpaper on that. Quick cleanup on the inside surfaces. If I had any muriatic acid left, I'd hit them with that, but I don't have any left. So I'm just going to do quick cleaning and then wire brushing and reassembly. In between, even though that is soft like fucking foam, I have to be disciplined here. I don't have a new valve. I don't have a new valve. I don't have a new valve. That's all we're going to do. Although I might replace this hose at this end. Clearly, this wire is broken in the hose. So I'm probably going to cut it right here and then move the hose up. And that's about all I'm going to do. Because I don't think I can get it. I know I can't get a replacement valve in the next week or so. That was pretty low likelihood in the first place. I should have just bought the damn things before I left Florida. But I didn't. But I will. Let's clean what we can clean. Smear the rest with grease and then get out of here. The cabin's a mess because I've got all the items from the lockers inside the boat to gain access to the hull fittings in the back of the boat. Inside the boat, that, my friends, is a completed patch on the inside. It's translucent for sure. And there's another one down here. That's where the shitter dumped overboard. But the point is that we're done on the inside of the boat. This afternoon the guys are going to be doing the outside layers of fiberglass. What you just saw there was 5 layers of fiberglass mat in concentric circles, getting smaller at the center and bigger as to follow the bevel. And this afternoon we're going to grind the outside of the holes the same way and then put the fiberglass cloth on there. And that'll be a complete X. So probably all the fiberglass work will be done today, and tomorrow the guys will sand the excess fiberglass and fill in the gaps and the fairing compounds and all that hoo-ha to make it smooth on the outside, ready for painting. And then the baton is handed to me. I want to paint the boat. I could hire that out too. If they gave me a really, really good quote, I might, but I mean, painting is something I can do. So I think by the time tomorrow gets here, I'll just be probably the critical path will run through the receipt of the depth sounder, and I don't have it. So I think that I'll actually end up with a few days to do other jobs, that are not related to being on the water. And I do have my goals, so I'll take give you a quick look here at what I've got on my priority list. So the priority is get a depth sounder, normal bottom work, cleaning and painting, and the anode on the shaft, that's complete. Abandon the unused holes, that's the work we're working on today. That's important because it's driving the painting. You can't paint until 3 is done. 4 is complete. And overhaul bilge pumps. So I'll go after bilge pumps next when I get some time. And there's a few other things I want to do when I get past this painting phase. So if I find myself having painted the boat and I'm just waiting on the depth sounder to do that very last penetration, well then I'll do these other jobs as well. So there's a lot of stuff I can do. And I don't know, we'll just see how it goes. I'll make the best decisions I can and we're going to carry on. So that's the end of week 1. I'll get you another video next week, guys. Take care, everybody. Bye.